Fuck,
Fucking hell,
we got there in
man.
the end.
Jesus Christ.
That was
It was a challenge.
I'd love to do a behind the scenes to show people how much effort it actually really takes to get a podcast going.
Yeah, well, I definitely could have benefited from that. Like, I came here, I said to you before as well, like, I started off as a guest, we started being a co-host, but I just come here, I talk some conspiracy shit, we got a bit viral on things. I have no idea the background, the knowing the cameras, knowing the sound, knowing the audio, knowing the clips, the hooks, all the things that you've been doing in the background. I feel almost bad. Like, I thought my effort was like, oh yeah, we're about 50-50. My effort's about like 10%, I think, and then you're like 90% just dragging this thing forward.
Oh, dude, it was wild as well. Like, I was trying to tell you as well. I was like, dude, I don't think you understand how much. And then when you come over here, and like sometimes I can see you're like, you just want to get the podcast going, and you're rushing through it. And I need you to. The reason why I'm like forcing you to sit through this is because I need you to see it. I'm like, I need you to see that it's not just like I come in here, I turn it on, it works. There's so much quality control. I need to check to make sure that the sound's right. I need to make sure the camera's working. We get everything working. One of the cameras stops working. You need to double check that before you go live. There's so much to think about, like angles, the buttons on the Stream Deck to change the camera angle. Yeah. You need to have the tabs set up. You also need to have all of the stuff that we do pre-podcast to make sure that we're set up to have topics so that people can listen to. There's so much. Even just me, I can just keep rattling this off. It's actually insane.
Yeah, it's wild. It's like the skill cap, right? The skill cap is just massive, and you think that the skill is being verbose, articulate, research topics, but that's like half, not even half of the actual skill involved in making something like this run smoothly. Yep. And to that extent, like having a producer now, as we're having Lukey here with us, to take that pressure off you to some extent, and we can actually focus on the podcast here.
I actually can relax.
Excited.
I can actually relax a little bit as well. So good. Luke actually did it without me saying. But I wanted to tell you, Luke, that you always want to be able to see the mixer on OBS there. You see how you can see the green bars at the bottom? On every scene, you always want to be able to see that, because on the one where it's muted and we've been talking for 15 minutes that's another thing that's really
that haunts me still.
That's why I always have it so I can visually see it when I change.
Yeah.
So once you set it at that on each scene, you always be able to see it. But like we've been talking sometimes and one of them's been muted, and I'm like, no, we just lost like 30 minutes of content.
There was that one. This is for Luke and anyone in chat who's joining us in there. We had one where it was just absolute fire. We're both focused. We started the potty, and I can't remember exactly what we talked about, but through that clip, I'm like, this is just gold. We've like touched on such a deep
30 minutes worth
philosophical topic, and then we're like, fuck, everything's muted.
Yeah, we either had OBS wasn't muted, but we forgot to turn the mics back on. So the whole time we were chatting and no one could hear us. Yeah. I was like, oh my goodness, man. And that's just like
and then chat started taking the piss with us, saying, oh, we still can't hear you even though things are working.
Yeah, and you know the thing is that on Twitch and like YouTube, when you're streaming, people are always like, they'll meme with you and say like, oh dude, we can't hear the sound and shit, and you go and check and the sound's working. So me in my head, I'm like, haha, good one, nice job. But they're like, no, we actually can't hear you.
We couldn't hear. Yeah, no one do that. We don't need that right now.
Don't ever do that.
But if you actually can't hear us, genuinely let us know that you can't
please,
hear us.
Like we need something. But Luke, just one thing as well is that when you're in the audio mixer section there, or when you're scrolling through something, just be careful, because when you scroll, sometimes it actually turns the volume down. So you always want to click the sidebar, and then just be careful with it. It won't always happen, but it can happen sometimes. But anyways, man, let's get stuck into it.
Yeah, let's get stuck in. As everyone knows, the last few episodes, we've been basically this sort of revamp of the show. We've got that structure that we're trying to get through, trying to keep ourselves from treading the same grass, basically. So we've got our weekly rundown. Basically how we start each show. So I think you've got some stuff on here, like, so weekly rundown, that's like personal stuff happened to us, local community sort of issues.
Yeah, like recaps of what's happened during the week. And actually, I just wanted to go at it now before we get off of the topic. We were talking about not drinking alcohol, and you said that Joe Rogan had just stopped drinking alcohol. Did we have technical difficulties there? Oh, okay. No problem. I think it could be one of the cables, actually. But, Joe was talking about... you said that Joe said he wasn't drinking alcohol anymore.
Correct, yeah. Yeah, so on that front, something I've been like considering myself as well, and that's what I brought it to you. I have a friend of mine who stopped drinking for quite a while. He came with us to Japan. That was the first time he drunk in, I'd say, like 18, 24 months almost, right? And it's a weird one that you know, we think about drugs in general, like alcohol is such a strange one because it's a genuine poison. Like it's a cellular destructive poison in every sense of the word. It is fermented organic matter, basically. So it's dead and decomposing matter that we've like refined into a drinkable substance. And if you have too much, it will kill you. There's like a lethal dose limit for alcohol, which is not that high. I mean, compared to other drugs, it's insane that we just accept it as like a standard thing to consume. It doesn't take a lot of alcohol to kill you. You can consume it in like less than a minute if you just keep chugging away, and you will die. And it's like we all just like live in this world where it's just, oh, dilute a little bit, give it to me in a glass, and I'll punch it down every Friday and Saturday. It's such a strange thing. And yeah, as I said, cellularly destructive, psychologically destructive, socially destructive. I mean, most divorces are instigated from like an affair that happened when someone was drunk. Like it's a really destructive substance, and we all accept it.
Well, yeah, but you're talking about all the negatives though. But the positives of it is that it helps people loosen up. It helps people bond and get along together. Depending on how much you drink, it gives Good Friday vibes. There's nothing better than having a beer on a Friday. Like after work, you go down to the local bar. You're like, it hits your lips.
It's bonding, man. It's a bonding.
It feels
thing.
so good.
I reckon it resembles like back in ancient times where you're with all your boys. You're about to go march into almost like certain death, so you all get absolutely blitzed around the campfire. Like that actually was probably part of the bonding adhesion of the unit.
Like before the day before or something like
Yeah.
that. You're about to go out to war or something. Yeah, and like in Japan, it's actually it's super common. They have a drinking culture, and that's how you sort of progress in your role as well. You go after work drinks with the higher ups, and you're essentially not allowed to leave until like everyone else or the higher ups start leaving, and that
You have
sort
to
of
show
stuff.
you've got the medal to like drink with the big boys, right?
Essentially,
that's part
but
of it.
it's like a bonding thing, and it keeps everyone feeling like they're a part of the team.
Yeah.
And it's actually pretty toxic because you have to drink whenever someone else says that they're going out drinking. So it's frowned upon to turn it down, even if you've got something pre-planned. You can't turn it down.
Yeah.
It's pretty wild.
Yeah, it'd be very like intrusive into your life, right? If you got something planned, if like you misses something afterwards, like, no, sorry, I need to go get fucked up with the boss, basically, right?
Yeah. Well, if you want to progress in your
Yeah.
career, it's something that's expected of you. It is starting to change slowly, but it's still very ingrained.
Well, are you thinking of trying to cut out the alcohol then for a little bit, see what it's like?
Well, I never thought that I would do it, but I actually have been drinking those the zero alcohol beers. I won't ever go out and buy them because I don't drink during the week anyways. But when it comes to a Friday or Saturday, because I don't drink during the week, I'm like, oh, whatever. Like, I'll just drink whatever I want. And for me, I don't drink that much. So 2 pints, man, I'm pretty like feeling good. And if I don't keep that momentum going, I get sleepy, and then it just ruins the rest of my night. So, but I don't want to not go to after work drinks. So
That's where you start punching darts like Scotty, right? That's why he
Yeah.
does it.
that's it.
That's literally, he has a few beers, and right before the sleepy thing kicks in, he freaking punches a few darts, and he flies off into the sun, mate. That's
Yeah,
how,
but like
that's how he lives.
Yeah, I know, but I don't like getting home. Like last night, we played Smash Bros, and we had a whole bunch of people come around. If I'd had those 2 pints, and then we started playing Smash Bros, I would have just started getting sleepy and wanted the night to end. And it's less fun unless I keep the drinking going. So it's this weird fine line. And then the next day, I don't have a great sleep, so I feel like garbage, and it
Yeah.
affects my gym. It tanks your testosterone as
Oh,
well.
massively.
So
man.
it's like
massively.
There's so many things there where I'm like, this is not holistically, it's not beneficial for me, but I really enjoy that feeling after you have a couple beers. So I find that because I want that to keep going, I can keep chasing that feeling, and it's a dangerous game to go down. Not that I have like a drinking issue, I don't, but once I start on a night out, I really want it to keep going.
You got to make it worthwhile, right?
Exactly.
You touch on like a deeper thing just in general, which is like, how do you find that balance between having fun and also like staying healthy? Because at the end of the day, we all die no matter what you do. Your time is finite no matter how healthy you want to be, right? And also, like, even if you're as healthy as you can possibly be, that doesn't guarantee you more years on the back end. You could still just die on like the most random ass thing all
For
the
sure.
time, right?
For sure.
So if you never drink, you never go out, you never have fun, you never party, and then you still die young anyway because of some accident. It's kind of like, well, what's the right balance here, right? How much
Yeah.
control is enough control?
Yeah, I I don't know what the answer is there, but I think that you have to be able to let your hair down sometimes. You got to be able to let loose. I think it's probably, you should really consider how often you're doing it. If you're going for Friday drinks every single weekend, Friday and Saturday, dangerous. I think if you do it once every, I don't even know if fortnight is too much. I think maybe once every 3 weeks or once a month is probably okay.
To actually get on it properly, right? We're talking like 8-9 standard drinks, a few pints.
I don't even know if it's wise to get that messed up once a month. I think that it's a fine line between, let's say you do 1 or 2 pints every Friday, or you do them all in the space of one night. I think it's actually more dangerous to do it all in the space of one night, as opposed to doing 1 or 2 here on a Friday every Friday. Even though it seems like you're drinking more, you're actually probably drinking less overall.
Yeah, I remember reading a study about it as well. It was like casual drinkers and consistent drinkers, and like there's actually some evidence that consistently drinking, even if it's like 1 glass of red wine, like an evening, for example, makes these like thin micro lesions on your liver, like cirrhosis of liver, like thin little cuts, and they're consistent and never heal, and they stay with you your whole life.
Yeah.
Whereas like binge drinking, I think most of the time, like it's a one and done sort of scar.
Yeah, but I think it actually, for the people that binge drink, it's actually worse for the liver than it is if you just consistently drink.
Yeah.
So, because you go in and you just mess it up like so bad, whereas if you just casually drink 1 or 2 every night, it's actually like way more consistent.
I'm actually curious, Luke, if I get you to pull that up, if that's right, just like between binge drinking versus consistent drinking, which one's worse for you? I'm actually curious to see like because I think you're right there. If it's like a wrecking ball right into your liver in one go, that's probably a lot worse.
Then just, it could be death by 1,000 cuts.
Yeah, exactly.
It's really
I
interesting.
wonder which one it is. I would like to respond to Deadlink. Cheers for joining us, man. He said there's a living a long and living a fulfilling life. Yeah, you can live 100 years without truly living for a second. That's also spot on, right? Living is more than just breathing and staying alive. There is that element of like, risk and doing things that are dangerous for you. We do it all the time.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that you shouldn't do that. I'm just saying you should be careful with how much you indulge in it.
Moderation, right?
It's like if you eat takeout every single night, well, 1, there's no enjoyment when you have takeout, and 2, it's not good for you. But if you have takeout once a month, it feels way more rewarding, and it lets you get that relaxation and enjoyment from it. So I'm just saying, just be careful with how much you're drinking.
It's something a bit different from the mold, right? It's that you're actually changing your routine to something. It makes it more special, makes it more enjoyable. I get that.
It absolutely makes it more special. But yeah, I don't know, man. I've dabbled with the idea of just completely stopping drinking in general, because of the days where I do go out and I get home at bloody 2 or 3 a.m. and I've drank a whole bunch. And I think the part that really deters me the most in Perth or West Australia in general is the price of alcohol. We went out in Japan, and sure, we had hangovers the next day, but the damage to the bank account is significantly less. Like, you can get a 700ml bottle of nice whiskey for like $20. That same exact bottle that you would get in Australia is like $60 to $80. It's just insane. So it makes it a lot more accessible to actually go out drinking.
Yeah, Luke's just found here like casual drinkers versus binge drinker stats. I'm just curious to see which one has the worst health effects. Right, health effects.
Just quickly as well, Darko, do you mind just grabbing my phone over there?
Yeah, easy.
Chuck it on there. Yeah, I'll talk. It's just we haven't updated our Instagram for so long, so I think I probably should put a post on to show that we're actually still active.
All right, easy. Let me see if impacts on body. Perfect.
I'll swap over to you, Darko.
All right, easy. All right, so still casual drinking can still pose risks if guidelines are followed. This is not probably going to give us the information that we want. This seems pretty pushed through governmental data. It's a bit hard though to find that sort of information when you're not like actively researching it. But we actually talked about that before the potty, that like one of the things that I think I'm decently good at is like the researching.
Yep.
But my God, with the internet these days, you think it would be easier to find the information that you want, but I swear to God, it's harder.
It's so hard.
Like, you need to know how to filter through like what's just like push. That thing that you found there, Luke, was like purely from the government, and the government still wants to, tax you on alcohol and make money on you drinking. So they're not going to come out and say, yeah, don't drink. They make a killing. You talked about why it's so expensive here. We all know it's like, it's the tax purposes, right? We got those tax excises on alcohol. It's freaking crazy.
Insane.
Yeah.
It's absolute insanity.
So when you search on there, like, oh, should I be drinking casually? And yeah, the government's saying, oh yeah, no, it's fine. Yeah, just have a couple every now and then.
The argument is that they have the tax so high because the people that are drinking are a strain on the health system. So it's a bit of a double-edged sword. It probably makes sense to some extent. You know what you should do? You should go and really break down the data as opposed to like how many people that are alcoholics are actually affecting the health system, and then how much money is being pulled in by taxing really high from the Australian government.
Have you heard about the 80-20 rule? I'm pretty sure on this it actually would apply as well. So it's basically like 80% of all the money spent on anything is spent by 20% of the people. And something that they find in gambling is something they find in mobile games. So people who actually spend money in mobile games, they make 80% of their money from 20% of the people who play the game.
Yeah, that's crazy.
But this like rule, it's like a really weird universal rule. It pops up like just about everywhere. For example, there's a really crazy one like 20% of the floor space in any room gets 80% of the foot traffic. It applies in anything that you look at. It's like a universal constant. It's a really strange one. So think about that. Any room that you have, kitchen, living room, wherever it is, 20% of the square meterage of that room gets 80% of the foot traffic.
Makes sense.
Like it actually makes sense.
Yeah.
It's just a distribution of like a constant distribution. So on that front, I think like 80% of the money made on excising taxes on alcohol are made from 20% of the people who drink alcohol. The people who genuinely have a problem and can't stop.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes sense to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Let's see.
You dabbling, not drinking. Though.
I'm
Let's see how it
dabbling.
goes.
I'm trying to utilize tools at my disposal to see if I can still go out. Like I think the thing for me is that I don't want to be bound to drinking alcohol to have a good time when I go out. I just think that's a dangerous path to go down, and I think that's how I've always lived. I am not going to the bar or to the club with people unless I'm drinking. Yeah. And the times that I didn't do that is when I got really shredded and I just refused. So I'd go to the bar and I wouldn't go clubbing or that after. But then I thought, well, you know, I had fun when I went to the bar with everyone and I just didn't get drunk and I got results out of it. So...
Well, what surprised me the most was when our friend Matt came with us to Japan, the guy who doesn't drink, still came out to about 2-3 in the morning every night we went out. Like, he still partook in every single thing we did, and there was you couldn't even tell, except the fact that he didn't get sick, and he had like the most healthiest run of the holiday.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, but he was still able to do everything. So, but I reckon, should we get ourselves into the actual structure of the potty here?
Yeah, well, go for gold, man.
Well, I saw this one. I didn't want to take away your thunder on this, but I'd love for you to get into the one that you found. We call this episode "Shoes on the Ground." So it's like a local Perth or WA
do
topic.
Do you want to start with one of your ones, or do you want to...
I can start one of my ones, but my one's going to be a really brief one. I had Luke pull some stuff in.
I see, okay.
I can probably jump into mine really quick, and then you can go.
Yeah, go for it. I'm just going to finish doing
doing
this.
that.
Yep.
So I want to have a quick chat to you guys and to the people listening, but as we all know, we had a federal election quite recently. It was a few weeks ago now. You know, Labor won. They're forming the government, but I don't want to get too much into like political science. And not everyone agrees on that. I know you're not going to get any consensus on here, but the really fascinating thing I want people to focus on, and Luke, if you could pull up the back camera on here and just zoom us in a bit there. So there's a very interesting trend. Like, this is the 2025 election that we just had here, right? So Labor got 34% of the primary vote, and Liberals got about 31%. So total, that's about 65% of the vote went to one of the two major parties. That is less than 2/3. Now, if you go back just 3 years, so pop this other one here, on this election in 2022, it was closer to about 68 to 69% of the vote went to the two major parties. And you go back one more election, and it was above 70%. So what we are seeing is this consistent drop. I mean, it is like a straight goddamn arrow down of people not voting for one of the two major parties. People are voting for independents. They're voting for third parties, minor parties, across the board. I mean, this election, there was like, I think, 15% of the primary vote went to independent parties. And what I really want to just touch on very quickly on this one is like, that is how our democratic system was supposed to operate. I can't stress this enough that the men who wrote the Constitution, we don't take out the Constitution, but who wrote the ideology behind how representative democracy works, that had nothing to do with this party system that we have. So the idea was representative democracy, right? You have your community of people who live in your area. Let's say you have like Inaloo, I think was your seat. You and all the people who live in the area around you are meant to pick someone from your group who you know, who you trust, who you think will act in your interest. You vote for them and you send them to Canberra to make policy in your favor. And if they don't do what you want them to do, you vote for someone else. The person who you elected is representative and responsible to the people that selected him, because you know who he is and you know what he's sent there to do. So it's very accountable, right? It's the most clever system you can have, because the building blocks of power are built upon the smallest amount of people selecting someone from amongst themselves to represent them. So that's the idea. And you do that en masse. Every seat, every county, every district votes for their person, and then you have state and you have federal. But right now what we have with this two-party system is the complete opposite, right? You have no idea who the person is that you voted for. You've never seen them. You don't even know their name. All you know is the color. You are voting blue or red. That's it. You have no idea who that person is. And the problem is, when they win and they go to Canberra, they need to do what the party wants them to do, because they work for the party. They don't work for you. Do you know how I know that? Let's say you've got your guy, right? He's part of Labor. He goes there. He disagrees with what Labor are trying to do. You know what Labor says to him? Next election, you ain't sitting for us. That's it. Go run as an independent. And 99 out of 100 times, if that guy tries to run as an independent, he's going to lose. Because people don't know him. They only know the party colors. Do you know what I mean? Like, you got completely distracted.
I 100%. No, I know exactly what you're talking about. So you're saying that there's no way to really get in a minority party, because everyone is too consumed in their own lives to really think about what is happening in actual politics.
To some extent, yeah, you can blame it on the individuals not being attentive enough and not knowing enough. But the real issue that we have, I was waiting for you to wrap that up. It's so distracting.
Is it? Sorry, man.
It's so distracting.
I'm trying to post on our promo. I'm trying to get us promoted, and then I'm trying to do the link, and then the link I did isn't taking us to the video. I'm like, my goodness. That's all right. Yeah, carry on.
So the issue that we have right now is basically that when you vote for the party is who the person who got elected is responsible for. So your guy from Inaloo that's meant to do what you want him to do for your community, he goes over to Canberra. He has to do what Labor tell him to do. He has to vote how they vote. If he doesn't, they kick him out the party. Next election, he tries to stand for the same seat without the name Labor behind him. Labor puts a different candidate, already pulls 30-40% of the vote away from this guy. He doesn't win anymore. Yeah. So then he's like an employee for Labor. He's no longer representing you who voted for him. He's an employee for Labor.
Oh, I see what you're saying now. So you're saying that he is bound to the wants of the Labor Party, and he's not actually implementing things that the local community wants, because it's Labor first, then whatever the community wants after.
And the problem for that, the reason why that's the case, is because it's like a two-party system that we have. He can't win if he runs for independent. Too many people just vote blue no matter who. Or, better red than dead, whatever the fuck the slogans are that they have. Too many people just do that. They'll vote for who the party is. They won't know who the person is. They've never met them. They never shook their hand. They have no idea who the person is. And then they're beholden to the party, because, remember, then they're going to have a mortgage. They might have a family. The guy wants to keep his job. Like, you can't even blame him for doing that, really, because, you understand the self-preservation kicks in.
And you actually get these long stints of, blue, but then you also have the Red Dead Redemption, right? So I had to hit that. After you said Red Dead, I was like, dude, there is Red Dead Redemption here somewhere, because the Labor Party came back with a vengeance.
They did. Well, they came back with a vengeance, yet they have a less of a primary vote count than they've had in almost all of history. And I showed you that thing before. Like, it's less than 2/3 now a primary party. 15% were independents. Like, that's great. That's how it was
That's
written.
what we want, yeah.
And a lot of people tell me, and I hear this a lot from people I talk to about politics, they say, oh, democracy is broken. It's clearly broken in the West. And it upsets me greatly, because, the way everything was written, and someone in the chat brought up America, man, the way it is written is fucking brilliant. It's brilliant. The way it's written and designed to operate is just so clever. It's so clever because it makes power blocks of democracy as small as possible, so that you can hold the person accountable. You have your local county. You have it steps up in complexity, and the amount of votes you need to win each seat scales upward with the responsibility that you have. It's meant to be fully accountable to the people. It is power to the people. But the way we do it now with this almost like tribal, team system, as if it's a sports team that you're supporting. Oh, why do you support that team? Well, my daddy did. Yeah, they've been shit for a few seasons, but what can you do? That's how people are treating politics. And it really pisses me off because, like, that's not what it's supposed to be.
Yeah, but is that not the responsibility of the people to take accountability for what they're doing?
100%.
This is the thing, is that we have a system here. It's not that the politicians have all this. Well, they do. They have a lot of power to influence because they have money to run ad campaigns and all that sort of stuff. But if you really want to see change, then it's on you to make the vote, and it's on you to understand the policies. It's actually difficult. This election, because I'm associated with you and some other friends that we have that are close to the podcast, I actually got to see in depth what the people that were running for actually, what they were trying to implement and what they were trying to change. But if you have 2 kids and you got to work 9 till 5, and then, you just want to get home and watch Netflix because you've just been so busy all day, you just want to unwind, and then your wife's like, well, what are we going to do? We're going to go for a walk or something. And then I'm expecting these people to go, and you have to spend 2 to 6 hours a week researching in the lead up to an election. Yeah. Man, it's just not going to happen.
Dude, I do get it.
Happen.
And I think the quote I saw that was really good was basically like, of all the money that they spend on advertisements, on campaigning and all the rest, the biggest asset the political class has is the distracted public. That is the best thing for them. Like, that's the best thing for them to keep their power, is for us just to have no idea what's going on. I want to mention something here as well in the chat as well. Just
the unwanted troll. Yeah.
Unwanted troll. He said humans are the problem in almost every single form of government, and that is spot on. And that's why, like, our form of representative democracy, it shields against the worst of human nature by reducing the power structure to the smallest unit possible. So if it gets corrupted, you can take out the corrupted block and replace it with a non-corrupted block. But you can't do that when it's a party, because when it's party system, it's one massive fucking block. Now it's a 40% block the size of Labour's vote count. And if that block becomes corrupted, you can't replace it because it's half the electorate. But if it was individual seats and one became corrupted, you take it out and you put someone else in. That's how you shield against the worst impulses of humanity. And that's why communism failed. Communism was like, the power block was total. It was the Communist Party. Total. They had control over everything. So when they got corrupted, tough fucking luck. You ain't eating this winter. It's done. You're starving. Your family's starving. Like, your generational starvation, done. Because that was the problem. Same as socialism, same as imperialism, all of these isms you can think of. They have a power block that's total and absolute at the top. But democracy is small little blocks of power that stack onto each other to make a government. Genius. Absolutely genius. And we fucked it up by making it a 2-party system. We scattered that to the wind. In every single Western democracy you can think of, it's just scattered that to the wind. Because we're human. We want things to be simple. We want to group it together. We want to go, okay, green, red, blue, which one do I like? But that's not how it's written. Intentionally, it isn't written that way because that doesn't work.
So my question to you is, how do we fix it?
It's fixing itself. I showed you the graph there. If we just keep following that, pretty soon, the actual majority of the electorate is not going to be any of the 2 parties.
No, but let's say we know that it is changing. I'm asking you the question, probably what I should have said is, why is it changing and how has it happened?
Yeah. So I think it's changing because we are noticing that the representatives we have aren't acting in our best interests. And there's heaps of different things you can look at to say, well, why are they doing that? That's clearly not helping anyone. We talked about some of the, like, the taxation systems that they have, mass immigration. Like, people know they can't afford a house. What's Labor going to do to fix your house affordability? Make it easier for you to buy a house that you can't afford. That's literally their plan. And that was Liberals' plan as well. That only benefits the bankers. That only benefits the property developers. I said to you before that most of the major party, I'm talking about Greens, Labour and Liberal, on average, they own about 4 properties apiece. So your politician average across the local, state and federal, they have about 2.7 properties. The average citizen, 0.6. So you can see it. You can see something's not right. And the reason it's not right is because they can shield their corruption in the massive block of the vote that they have. You know it's corrupt, but you don't know who. You know they're not acting in your interest, but you don't know why. You don't know who to replace. We just replace the top guy. Albanese, fuck him off, bring someone else in. But you don't realize that what's corrupted is the whole system underneath him. And that's why it doesn't work. That's why it stopped working, I think, maybe 30 years ago. But that's why it's like antibiotic reaction that we have right now. We're reacting to it ourselves, and the best way to do that is to keep like actually learning about your local candidates, independent candidates, and run yourself if you need to. Just do that. The more, the better.
That was actually a great. That was actually great that how you broke that down, Luke. One thing that I haven't told you is that I'm going to need you to start writing down these moments so that when we go back to edit them, it makes it so much easier. So I don't know how, there is a timer down the bottom that you can see. It's at 30 right now, so we'd probably have to work back from there. But that was actually excellent. The way that you broke that down was perfect. And I think that there is a lot of truth behind what you said. You can replace the head, doesn't matter. Like, there's something about they say
pyramid underneath them, right? That's the problem.
What do they say about a snake? You cut the head off of the snake.
Like a hydra.
Yeah, the hydra, right? It's absolutely right, and that's the thing that I wanted to touch on there. We're talking about Perth housing crisis and how it's super difficult to actually get into the housing market right now. Luckily, I bought a house 5 years ago, and I was reluctant to buy one back then. I thought there's no need, like there's no rush to get into the housing property. I'm signing myself up for this crazy mortgage for 30 years or whatever it is. And man, it turned out to be one of the best investments that I actually ever made. And at the time, I overpaid in my head. I thought I've overpaid for this place, and I lost sleep over it. And now looking back at it, I'm like, man, I have made so much imaginary money off of this investment that it was the best thing that I could have done. And I actually regret not buying another house sooner, because now that I have this house, yes, it's gone up a lot in value, but so is everything else.
Yeah.
And
what's really happened is your dollar's been deflated.
Yeah, so
but we all think we won.
Well, yeah. So it's like you look at it on paper and people are like, man, you're really lucky you bought this house 5 years ago. But it's like, yeah, but the house that I would like to purchase now is actually just the same amount away from when I purchased this house.
I would love to tell people, I think of it this way. Think the metric you should look at this as, what can $1 million get you off your currency in your nation? So if you think you've won because your house is worth $500,000 more, but you can't buy anything with that money, like you're in the exact same position that you were in before, except now the pay you get from your boss is worse. So actually you're more stuck because you're still paying the bank back. They still want the money that you promised them, but your dollar, your income, your salary is worth less in real world money.
Yeah.
So we've all actually been stitched up. Everyone's happy because they see dollar go up. Yay, dollar go up. Yeah, but that money's not real. It's still the same house. It's still the same brick, wood, asbestos roofing, whatever the hell it is that you have. It's still the same thing.
Yeah.
But your dollar's now worth less.
True. But then you could look at, let's say, for example, the retro video games market, right? There's less of those particular carts in really good condition. So because there's scarcity, the value of that cart goes up, whether it's in a good condition or not, depending on what game it is. There's some super rare games. To get a hold of it, you have to pay a lot of money, you know, or there's the ones that aren't rare and they're not really that valuable. The problem that we have is that I think the ones that are not really that valuable are way too expensive right now. So even if you go further out, I look at it and I'm like, man, you're like an hour away from the city and you're paying $600,000 to $800,000 for a house that 5 years ago probably wouldn't have scratched 400.
But you know,
just crazy.
What really gets me about this and what I'm really concerned about, what I scream from the rafters as much as I possibly can, right? Our reproduction rate for natural born citizens in Australia is dog shit. It's like 1.5, 1.6. So by the year 2100, so in 75 years' time, the population of Australia would drop by about 6 million if we didn't just keep importing mass migration. With mass migration, they want to get it to 45 million. So their plan, the official plan for the government, is to bring at least half of the population of Australia will be migrants. Yeah, 1.5. It's even worse than I thought. It's come down even further. 2024 is going to be worse. So when you think about why the house prices are so expensive, it's because there's too much demand, not enough housing. That's why the numbers keep getting inflated, and they keep bringing more people in. They also want housing, so that's why you have this arms race for property. But the natural born population isn't following stead. So you're going to pay, let's say you're going to mortgage right now, 30-year mortgage. You get $700,000 home. You pay back $1.6, $1.8 million in 30 years' time. In 30 years' time, there's going to be fuck all demand Because there's going to be no one even turning 18. There's going to be no one turning 40. Me and you are already not going to get to retire. It's already predicted that there's just not going to be another generation coming through to do the work. Unless robotics really steps up. There's West Australian itself had a front page a few months ago that said West Australians will be unable to retire. Our generation. So how's the value of the house? You think I bought it for 700,000. It's worth 900,000 now. It's gone up by 200 grand. No, you're paying 2 million or so once you're taking your interests and all the rest of those things. And you need the value of the house to at least line up with what you've actually paid, the real cost of it. And there's just no way. There's no way.
Yeah, but you're assuming that they just don't continue to increase immigration. If you just continue to increase immigration, then there will be a scarcity still.
Yeah, if they keep pumping in people from different countries who want to come here for a better life, and they keep doing that. But I mean, that's just not a sustainable model. That's not a culturally sustainable model. It's not societally adhesive. It's causing problems in the UK already. It's caused problems in the US. Like, it's this experiment that they're doing where they're thinking like, all right, we're going to just have half of Australia be people who've just come. I don't know if that's going to work. I don't know what problems that's going to have.
What? Sorry, I just wanted to check the chat.
Yeah.
There. That's a bootable offence.
Yeah, a Simpsons reference.
Oh, right.
Yeah, a Simpsons reference where they come to Australia and
Oh,
Bart has to get
yes.
booted by the boot.
That's a bootable
Yeah.
offence, yeah. The dollary dues. Australian dollar actually is trash as well. Unless we're going to Japan. Then it's not so
then
bad.
it's all right.
But yeah, no, I agree. And I'm constantly tied between, well, if I don't purchase another house now, this Ponzi scheme is going to keep getting worse and worse. And I'd rather get in
the front of
now than...
Yeah.
in 5 years' time when it continues to go, and I'm like, well, now I actually can't even afford this dog shit house that's worth $1 million. Now it will be worth $2 million in 5 years. So it's like, what am I doing?
It's crazy. It's kind of like, Bitcoin when it was 70K a piece, and you're like, do I buy? Do I not buy? Oh, now it's like 110,000. Yeah, it's exactly like that, and you just don't want to be left holding the bag. And the problem for a lot of people who buy a house with a 30-year-long mortgage is that the bank's guaranteed. You're going to hold that bag. So let's say you get a $600,000 home loan. You need to pay back $1.3 million in 30 years, whatever the number is. If the house drops to $300,000 value, how much do you think you're going to pay back the bank? You're going to pay them back every goddamn dollar you signed up for in that mortgage. You need to make sure that this Ponzi is going to survive 30 years, not 5, 30. I know you can say, oh, I'll sell that, buy another one. Okay, you can keep bouncing, moving your money like that. But eventually, when you pull your money out, you need to make sure you pull out before that Ponzi scheme dips the other way.
But
otherwise, you don't make back your mortgage to pay out the bank.
No, you're right. Yeah, but you're talking about a black swan event.
That's happened in 2009, happened in 2011, happened in 2001. I can give you 3 in our lifetime where this happened. Yeah. 3 times in our lifetime. COVID, it should happen again. But then the massive amount of money they pumped in during COVID actually stopped it. It slowed down. House prices started doing it again. And then COVID, all the money they pumped in, they were giving people insane amounts of money just in their ass. All this money got flooded into the market again, the housing market, and it stopped the collapse. The balloon just got a bit more air in it, and it stretched a bit more, but it didn't pop.
Yeah, but I think if you look at the prices over east comparatively, surely we had a recorrection that was necessary to happen. I think. Personally.
Yeah, they got 1.5, 1.6 mil for average house over there, but the salaries they don't scale the same way to our salaries.
True, but my question is it wise for you to keep waiting?
Me personally, no, I don't think so. I'm going to buy as soon as I can, pretty after my wedding. I'm getting into the market. There's no doubt about it. And the reason I want to do that is because both policies I saw from the major parties, and I said there's that shift coming where they're losing primary vote, but that's, I think, still 10, 15 years away before we have a government that almost works the way it should. They're not going to let the correction happen. They own the fucking properties, man. They own all the properties. They're going to inflate this thing so much. The day that a politician tries to sell 3 out of the 4 of his properties is the day everything's gone to shit. But the problem is, if you hold all this property and you want to sell to keep your profits, you have to sell slowly. You have to bleed the money out of the Ponzi scheme. Because the second you put 3 houses on the market, the value of each of those houses drops. Because it's all supply and demand, right? So my thing is, you're not going to know when this turn has happened. You're going to be on the fucking receiving end of it, I guarantee you. Because you don't own all the property. The people who own the property, they time it. They know. They manipulate it. Because once they put all their houses on market and their houses start selling, the price of everyone else's houses start dropping. You're going to be chasing it on the way down, and you're chasing it on the way up. In terms of being an investor, a small-time investor on this, it's just such a risk. But I need a place to live. I need a place to have a family. For me, it's like, yeah, I have the salary, I can probably ride this out. I'm still nervous about it because I know I'm going to be paying back 1.2 mil for a house that might not be worth that in 30 years. But what do you do?
So my question is that if you know that they're going to continually inflate this to make more money, obviously we know that they've got the 5% deposit and the government's going to help you buy a house, which means they're going to increase builders, which means they're going to have to...
But do you know how they're doing that?
How?
The government's going to be a co-owner on the property.
Yes, yeah.
Which I think is fucking insanity.
No, but what I'm saying though is that even if they are a co-owner, then that means that more people will purchase houses, which means that the prices will continue to go up.
It means that tax dollars are going to get flooded into the market, which means that inflation is going to get way worse, which means interest rates are about to start ticking up again, not down. So what they're going to do is
but they're saying that interest rates are going down.
They're saying that they're dependent on the inflation. That's why they went up in the first place.
Yeah, but so what they're saying is that the banks have just reduced their fixed rate interest rates lower than what they currently are, and I think one of them even is down at 4.99, which is the lowest that we've had.
So think of it this way, right? What made interest rates go up the first time? It was printing more cash during COVID. So how does the government become a 15% deposit holder for the house that you just bought? What is that? That's new money. That's money that they print into existence. It didn't exist until you bought that house. So the real problem here is that we're about to flood the Australian market with more Australian dollars like never before. This is insanity, man. It's insanity to say to the banks, tax dollars are going to cover 15% of this guy's house. The government doesn't have any money. They print money. They print money. They're going to get people pulled into buying a house that they can't afford at a higher price than it should be, with a promise of a lower interest rate that's immediately going to flip to higher because of the inflation that causes.
Hang on a second, but you're saying that... So, say we do purchase a house right now, they flood the market with more money, our money gets devalued, the inflation rate goes up, so isn't that going to cause more defaults?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. If you look at default rates in a graph, it's gone like this already. And my theory was that default rates, I think you can see like there's a certain term for it as well. Yeah, default rates of Australia, if look up this stuff, it's been increasing for a while as well. And you look at it and you go, during COVID, the money that they flooded, like it stopped the decline. So see if you can find, there's an exact word for it. I've seen this before. It's like severe stress. Here you go. The delinquency rate for major banks increased from 1.65 to 2.25. And it's going up again in this year as well. Because people are borrowing more. So once you just dip that interest rate, yeah, you say, oh, interest rate's gone back down. Yeah, but the average house price and the loan that someone took out, it's gone up by about 100 grand. People took out 20% more for a home loan. Yeah, you've dropped the interest rate by 0.5%. Yet they're still paying back way more than they would if they just borrowed 100 grand less. Insanely less. Like it's not even close. I've run the numbers on these.
Yeah.
So I'm telling you, I can almost predict this is what's going to happen here. And I don't think it's going to be a default bonanza and devaluing house prices because politicians won't let that happen. And the banks don't want that happen. Tax dollars are going to bail out the banks the same way they did in 2009 in America. And that's what happened in America. They gave more tax dollars to the banks to keep people's mortgages without defaulting because they didn't want mass defaults happening. And America's now, what, like 35 trillion in debt? And then the interest on their debt is like running away from their capacity to pay back. It's fucked. But the people who are fucking up our housing market and our government, they don't give a shit. Yeah, they're not holding the bag at the end. They won't hold the bag this time either.
Yeah, it's wild, man. And just a troll saying there, actually, I just need to get with some bird in Congress to figure it out. Look, man, someone's got to take the bullet.
Yeah, do it.
And look, if we can leave someone else holding the bag, then
she'll hold your bag.
Yeah. As long as someone's gonna hold my bag, that's fine. Ash says the mortgage repayments 4 or 5% deposit.
Yeah, I've run the
heinous.
numbers. I could probably do this next episode. I'll do a thing. I'll actually show you. I'll get the quotes from all the major banks, and I'll show you how much you pay back on a $400,000, a $500,000, a $600,000 loan. So you can see that even if they drop it back to 3%, a 3% repayment rate on a $600,000 loan is still more than a 6% on a 300. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's insane how they trick people into thinking that things are about to get better for them when they won't. And if the inflation rate of 2% meant they had to increase the interest, you can find out here, Labor's scheme for 5% deposit, what it's going to do to the housing market. You know what the estimate is? 30%. on average house prices are going to go up in the next 6 months.
That's what they're saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
But so if a house goes from being worth $500,000 to $800,000, but still the same bit of property of real estate, what has happened to the Australian dollar?
yeah. So
It's worth less.
it's devalued.
Yeah.
itself.
Before that 500,000 Australian could buy that house. Now it can't even buy almost half of it. That's the real problem. Like that is inflation. That is literally the definition of what it means to inflate the currency. So they're saying we're going to bring down interest rates, but we're going to inflate your currency. Dude, those that $200K for a house, 3 bedrooms, whereabouts is that? Because I'm fucking moving there. Also, we got a new person as well on the chat. Do you know who that is? Dirty Richness.
Louis on a pod, Liam, mate.
Are you on, Liam?
G'day, mate. How are ya? Oh, Liam, good to see you,
Yeah.
mate. You're in Ireland at the moment, are ya? I think not yet. Maybe soon. Hey. That's all right. I can cover it.
Perfect.
Good to see you, bro. How you doing? Yeah, so I'm buying a
Houston,
house
Texas.
this year. Luckily, I live in Texas, so I can still buy a low-cost house. Yeah, I think, you know what's crazy is that there's a house that I was looking at just recently, Dianella, going for, the lady, she's cooked. She's got it up for 1.7. And I'm like, because I just want to get a bigger bit of land. I'm like, lady, you're actually smoking meth. So the thing is that I looked at that house price and I took it further out of the city. So I looked at a place called Gooseberry Hill. So it's kind of in like near Kalamunda. It's maybe like 35 minutes from the city. Fucking gorgeous, man. Like you've got like nature and wilderness around you. 1.5, you get 2,300 square meters. The house that she's selling is 730 square meters. I'm like, bitch, are you serious?
Yeah,
like I
it's
can
insanity.
go slightly out. I've got like, it's literally a mansion. I looked at this. I was like, this is 1.5. Like this is what in my head, when I was maybe 20, I assumed that if I bought a house for $1 million, I'd literally have like fucking 2 women and I'd have a cigar, bro, and I'd be like, hey. And now you're like, you kind of get like this little block and like
you're
are
in
never
suburbia
gonna,
still.
Yeah. I'm just like, what the fuck, bro?
Yeah.
And it's like the thing is though, is that from this house to go to a bigger house, it's $1 million. Like that's insane. Like when I thought $1 million, I'm like, I'm done. Like this is it. $1 million, I'm done. That's it. I'm staying here forever. That's it.
If you want to really make
Fucking
yourself,
hell, man.
if you really want to depress yourself, what you need to do is an actual site I found before. You get like, what could $1 million buy me, and put a year in. So if you just look at 1990, what could $1 million buy you property wise in 1990 in Australia? Look, if you just chuck in that in Google, that is an absolute brutal realization to see what they've taken from us. And then you look at average salary in 1990 to now.
Yeah.
Our salary has gone up 30-40%, but the price of like a good house is tripled.
Bro, I saw one in where was it?
A mansion. That's it. 1990s, $1 million would have bought you a mansion.
Yeah, literally. I looked at one the other day. It was in where was it? It was in Dianella, but it was sort of like a little bit further up, so closer to Nollamara. And I looked at it, bro. It's 3-story. It has a tennis court and a massive pool. It must be like 2,000 square meters in Dianella, and that's selling for 2.8. Makes sense.
Yeah.
That actually makes sense to me. And from my understanding, the upper echelon of houses hasn't moved as much as that middle.
Oh, yeah, of
right?
course, yeah.
But here's the crazy thing is that I looked at when that house was first built. It sold one time in 1977, I think it was, $148,000.
Yeah.
$148,000, it got you this palace. Bro, it's a palace. If I can
Insane.
find the photos next week, I'm going to show you guys.
Yeah.
Now, if I want to spend that much, like 140,000, bro, I don't even think I'd get a driveway for that
No,
much.
you
They'd be
literally
like,
can't.
bro, like,
Look, if you can also find out what the average salary in Australia was in the 1990s for comparison's sake, but I have one last one before we move on from this topic as well to bring to you. So the reason why everything's as scuffed as it is property value price here, and again, this is one of those times where we had a bit of legislation written that was really clever, that would have worked really, really well. And you know what that legislation was? You needed 20% of a deposit before you could buy a property, before you get a bank loan. 20% deposit for the loan. And that was done to stop the 2009 global financial crisis that happened, where people were getting like $1 million home loan on no deposit down. all throughout America, and it all collapsed at the same time. The houses got devalued. People still owed the bank $1 million. It was a real problem. A lot of people are still homeless today from what happened in America in that time. That ruined families. It was really, really bad, right? So the idea was, all right, you need 20% of the deposit. We know what the average salary in Australia is. We know the average amount a person can save reasonably is about 30% of their salary. So you do the math on that. You want to buy a $500,000 house, 20% deposit, $100,000. You can only save 30%. It takes you about 7 or 8 years to save the money. So that was going to be a cap that slowed down how fast house prices could go up without wages also going up. Genius. Brilliant idea. They wrote that. I thought to myself, fan-fucking-tastic. That's politics. That is legislation. Brilliant. You know what the banks did? What if we convince or make the person so desperate that their parents will sign over right to their house?
I knew it, yeah.
The second that they got that over the line, the second that they bought out our politicians to allow that to happen, house prices have just been fucking flying.
Yeah, they get a guarantor, and they essentially are putting their house on the line saying, if they default on this loan, you get that house and you get my house.
And you know the crazy, I looked at the wording to this as well, because it's not just that like your parents are on the hook for what you couldn't save for the deposit. Your parents could have $500,000 cash, and the bank would be able to go, fuck your cash, house. And they take the house instead. Even if you have the cash to pay off the entire home loan that your kids signed up for, they can still choose to take your house. That's insanity. So now what do you think is going to happen when they do this? Well, okay, fine. There's not even any more real estate to tie to the deposit anymore. It's the taxpayer tying to the deposit now. Yes. Why does Labor think that's a good idea?
Yeah, and this is the thing that, like, look, we haven't gone full depth into this. I know you have. And before we start making statements like this, that Labor's done this, we're going to have to really deep dive on it. But based off of the assumption that you're making, if that is actually true, we're fucking doomed, probably. Yeah. Dirty Irishman says, same here, 500K house in Texas. And if I wanted something same size now, looking at $1 million plus. This house is $1 million now. Yeah. It's a joke. This is not, I've done nothing to this house. Yeah. It's not worth $1 million.
You done a podcast show, didn't you?
We got, well, it's a studio, okay? It's a studio. So Ash says you could live in Cottesloe for $1 million in 1990. Dude, you're not getting into Cottesloe ever, bro.
4 or 5 mil now.
Literally. I don't play tennis. I'm offering them 2K on Facebook Marketplace, not $1 more. Dude, there is this guy on Instagram, and he videos himself lowballing people on Facebook, and he'll be like, he'll see a card, he'll be up for like 10 grand, and he's like, I'll give you 5. Have it nice and clean for me. See you at 6. And it's like, it's so fucking funny. I don't know if you guys have seen that shit. It's actually hilarious.
I want to say Luke's found me here that the average salary was around 30K in 1990. What's the average salary now? I think it's about 80,000. Is that correct? So average salary has gone up by about 2.5.
Yeah, average is Australian average is 99.
Median salary is actually what we care about.
Median is what you want to know.
72,000. Yeah. So the salary's gone up by about 2.5 times, but the house prices have gone up by about 6 times. So if you just look at the scaling, so it was about $100,000 in 1990. My parents bought the house that they're in now for like 80K. Yeah. In 1996, it's now worth $700,000-800,000.
Yes.
Yeah. 10x.
Same as my
house prices 10x, but wages only 4x. Yeah. Yeah, in dollary doos we're talking about. In Australian dollary doos.
Yeah, which is pretty much fucking worthless. Brutal. I mean, the fact is, that's crazy, is that you go to the shops, it costs like $5 to get a bottle of water. Yeah. That's just insane to me, bro. Like, since us coming back from Japan and purchasing like Boss coffees or alcohol, like you get a Boss coffee like $1. Over here it's $5. I can't justify it.
Upsets you.
I'm like, I'm not spending $5 on this shit. Yeah. I will roast my own coffee and fucking drink coffee or make it myself. I am not spending $5 on this dog shit.
No, I was just saying that I'm not a troll, man. What you should do is if you can remote work still and get your American salary but live in Australia, you'd be fucking living large,
you'd be
man.
laughing, bro. Same with you. Same with you, Irish. Liam, if you were living in Australia, mate, you'd be doing pretty well, actually.
Yeah, Ash, that's exactly. Your money power is 8 to 10 times less. It's brutal. But let's move on. I'd like to move on to the next topic that we have as well to some extent. If we open up the Word document, Luke, as well. So this one here, a complete bit of a change of tactic, guys. Let me dive into this. This was fucking hilarious.
So I was actually scrolling through and I found this article. So in like over east, they're like really into NRL, like rugby. So anyways, Perth has just announced that we're going to be having our Bears NRL team, like a professional team back. So, anyways, there's this. If you could just bring this up, Luke. So there's this team, and they call it the Bears, but it got mistaken for this gay social club in Perth called the Bears. And what makes it even worse is that the Bears Gay Social Club is right next to HBF Stadium. So out of nowhere, once this got announced, the Bear Gay Social Club was getting this influx of memberships. And I'm like, what is going on here? This doesn't make any sense. So obviously people had mistaken that the Bears Gay Social Club was the Bears NRL team. So they had to start putting on their website that, no, we're not actually the NRL team. We're a gay social club.
To be fair, there is some crossover, let's be honest, towards men tackling
sweaty
each other.
men's tackling each
small
other.
shorts.
If you could just bring up the article again, just scroll down there quickly. So this is on their page. So social club known for has put out a notice. The Interstate Rugby League fans to the Interstate Rugby League fans that they're not NRL's new scene. So the Bears Perth was established in 1997 for men and was not in any way associated with Perth's new NRL team. The notice read and asked people not to sign up if they wanted to join the new rugby club. It's like, how many people? Like, I wonder what's the website look like,
dude? Imagine you rock up in a full rugby kit, then you come to like a game or a meal like that, and you're looking around, you're like, this.
Yeah, there's like dudes dressed in leather and a ball gag. You're like, what? Like this? I didn't know this Perth NRL team was this crazy. But just go back to that article, Luke. If you could just scroll down just slightly more.
Try to zoom in a bit, Luke, if you can.
So like they put this up next to it. It's like, dude, this is hilarious. That's such a funny mix up, and the fact that they're right next to HBF Stadium, I read that and I was pissing myself. I was like, that is actually so funny.
20 membership hopefuls.
Yeah. So, hey man, if you're into the gay social club scene, Perth Bears.
But if you're also into rugby as well, then you really in luck because you can get both from the same.
You can do both.
Two for one membership.
2 for 1. Perth Bears gay social club membership. Just hit them up, man. HBF Stadium. Shout outs to those guys, dude.
What a mix up though.
So I thought, dude, that was a story of the week. I thought that was super funny, but well dressed.
Hilarious.
Imagine some lady went to make her husband an account and it says email already taken. Dude, you'd be like, what the fuck? What is this shit?
They were known by name. Oh yeah, Jeff, how you doing, bro?
Yeah, Jeff.
Fuck.
It's like when like Smithers, he goes into that club, but it's a lesbian club, and he's like, no. And he's like getting pushed up against the wall and shit. But yeah, that one's that was my shoes.
We work
on the ground
hard,
for
we
this week.
play hard.
Everybody dance. Like, when the fuck's the rugby ball coming out?
Someone needs to make that meme, but have like Bart and Homer have like the
NRL
the
NRL team. Someone please fucking Photoshop
that'd be
that
absolutely hilarious.
Seriously, dude.
Oh, gold.
But anyways, that's shoes on the ground for this week. So what have we got teed up next here?
Let's see if you scroll down. We still got the mouse ourselves. Let's look and do that for us.
Actually, one thing before you've got Curious Critters, but the last thing I wanted to announce here is that we actually have our own Perth UFC champ now. So Jack Della Maddalena fought last weekend against Bilal Muhammad, defeating him unanimous decision. So Perth boy, first UFC champ ever. So that's super crazy. And man, shout outs to Jack Della Maddalena, man.
Represent, man. That's it.
It's crazy. It's like guy from Perth, and out of nowhere, he's just like come onto the grand scale of the UFC, and what's crazy is he lost his first 2 fights, and most people would have quit after that. Since then, I think he's had a 17-fight win streak. Jeez. Literally 18 now, considering he just won. So
it's awesome.
Crazy.
So he made 100,000 Australian dollars.
Yep.
Dollary dues, as we say.
Yeah, so big, and now that he's the champ, he's actually going to fight Islam Makhachev. So Islam Makhachev vacated his belt, and he's actually going up to fight Jack Della Maddalena now. So
that's gonna be sick.
It's gonna be cool, man.
Yeah. Is that gonna be in Australia, or is that gonna be?
I'm hoping. I think they announced the Perth card that's coming up soon. So awesome. Hopefully, if he does it here, man, I'm definitely going to be.
I'll
be
love to go to that.
That'd be
crazy.
Sick. So yeah. But anyways, moving on to Curious Critters.
Right,
so
I've got a crazy one for you today.
This one is essentially us sharing a fact or a quirky story about animals. So hopefully you enjoy that one.
Yeah, no, I've got an absolutely sick one today. I was researching this. I was going to go somewhere different with it, and stuff I was finding was just like enthralling me, man. I was deep dive like crazy. Can you give me that mouse as well?
Yeah, here.
So I can just at least scroll through while I'm going through it. So, Luke, is that taken off you?
There you go.
Brilliant. All right, so basically, I wanted to look into the theory I had was, so we've domesticated cats and dogs over like generations and generations of selective pressure breeding, right? We take the ones that are least afraid of humans and we breed them to be more docile, more friendly, and more like compatible to what we want them to be. And we've been doing that for thousands of years now with these two animal types, right? And it occurred to me recently, I'm like, well, hold on a second. Right now, if you have the genetic composition as a cat, let's say, to be the most human-friendly as possible, your likelihood of reproducing is lower than it's ever been before. Because we sterilize about 90% of domestic cats before they ever get to breed. So the ones that are like the most evolved to be friendly with humans are the least likely to reproduce. And the ones that run away and are strays and don't get desexed are doing the reproducing. And it occurred to me and I thought, well, hold on a second. Are we like de-evolving the domestication of cats? That was my theory that I wanted to sort of touch base on this. And I got sent a bit to the left on it, but it started to tie into the stuff that we've discussed before. I don't know if you remember our episode about the Black Panther sightings. So apparently like remote Australia, Western Australia in particular, people started thinking they were seeing panthers. And me and Louis did an episode where we tried to think like, well, did something escape a zoo or was it, how is this possible? We saw a video that looked like a freaking panther. It looked massive. So it turns out that feral cats in WA, for the last maybe, I'd say, 80 or 90 years since their population's increased enough, they've been evolving separately almost to the point where they can soon be classed as subspecies from domesticated house cats. And their evolutionary path is the complete opposite to what domesticated cats in the first place. So the ones that are most afraid of humans, as a feral cat, are most likely going to survive. The ones that can hunt the best and kill the best and eat the best will survive. So they're getting bigger, they're getting more violent, and the claws getting sharper, the canines getting longer. Every facet of these feral cats is evolving back into what their formerly wild counterparts were. We're talking about wild cats. That's where domestic cats came from. And the absolute crazy thing is, I've got some stats in here for you. They're going to blow your freaking mind, right? So let's load this up here. All right, easy. So, sorry guys, bear with me 1 second. I just need to load up this here. Here it is. So the average weight for like a domestic house cat is between 3 to 4 kilograms. They've been finding that the average weight for feral cats that they found in the last 10, 15 years is bordering to about 7 to 8 kilograms. So already they're about twice the weight of a domestic house cat. But the crazy thing I found was that in 2005, this hunter shot dead what he at the time thought was like a freaking panther or some other type of animal. It was a 35 kilogram feral cat. From nose to tip of tail, it was 1.5 meters long.
That's huge.
So for context, that's our entire table in front of us right now.
Man, that's massive.
And I've got a few photos here, Luke, pull up of some of the biggest ones I've seen, because we hunt these cats, right? We hunt them, we have to take them out because they're killing all of our wildlife. So up here, there's one that's taking out a fucking wallaby, man. That's not killing a bird, that's killing a wallaby, that cat.
Man, that cat must be massive.
That thing is the size of this table. So look, if you just keep going through some of these photos, people can see, these things are enormous. That was taking out iguana. So all these cats are from like nose to tail are like 1.5 plus meters. Dude, that's 20, crazy. 30 kilograms in weight. And the one that was killed and caught. And this is the thing, right? The biggest ones, the best hunters, are the least likely to be seen by humans. Because they're evolving back to being like, we don't even know how big the biggest ones are. Because we can't even find them. We don't know where they are. We just know that there's something killing massive amounts of our wildlife out in the bush. So there's one here. It's one of those photos there, Luke. You had it open before?
Yeah, I did, but I've lost it.
Easy. I think it might be the longest one. Keep going down. Right at the top. That one there, maybe? So there's one here was the one that was killed. Oh, sorry. This one down here. This one here. Yeah.
I guess the same one.
That one there. That's the one that someone actually shot and killed out in the bush. If you just look at how enormous that thing is, that's from the back of like a ute tray.
Yeah, it's massive, eh?
So imagine a pitch black one of those. And I think all these sightings that we saw of panthers are starting to make a lot more sense.
It does actually make sense if you can get feral cats that big.
Yeah.
But are you saying these cats have escaped? They're out in the wilderness, they've reproduced, and then they're getting bigger. But that means that they're blending with the local fauna.
No. So these, not blending. They've adapted to the local fauna. So
No,
we're talking about.
You can't do that off of one cat.
Yeah, of course. These
there's,
cats.
There's wild cats already.
Yeah. So these cats, but they were domesticated at some point.
Yeah. So there was a domesticated cat
In the
that got out
50s
there.
or 60s. And
Oh,
it's had
that long?
Yeah, and it's had about, let's say, 13 or 14 generations of adaptive pressure to evolve back to being the hunter that it used to be.
Right.
And what we're seeing now is like, because they're out in the middle of Pilbara, there's not much humans around. They're not interbreeding again with domestic cats. So the gene pools are starting to do, they call it allele drift in genetics. It's like they're starting to have separate gene pools that don't overlap anymore. So these like feral cats have certain genetic traits that domestic cats no longer have.
Wow.
And the evolution is like complete, I'd say 1-for-1 against itself. So domestic cats, we still breed. That's how you get a cat when you buy one. And we still breed the friendlier ones, the ones that aren't scared of humans, the ones that aren't violent or aggressive. So we're making domestic cats more and more of this type of species. And these ones are going the complete opposite. The more violent, the more aggressive, the more likely they are to survive. The better they hunt, the more likely they are to reproduce. So all the selective pressures are to make this thing a goddamn apex predator again. And it's going in that direction. And you're talking about, like, in Australia in particular, there can't be more than 20 or 30 generations. That's not much. I mean, it is such an accelerated evolution that most, like, evolutionary biologists can prove evolution in the micro. We can show you how one gene will mutate and will change one effect. We can't prove to you macroevolution normally because it takes so long. But here, you almost can. You can see it. It's happening. In front of our very eyes, we're about to subspecies a feral cat version in Australia. We're going to have our own version of what a wild apex predator cat is going to be.
Yeah, it's crazy, dude. I didn't realize it was that wild. What was going on out there,
Yeah.
but it makes sense that whatever people are seeing out in Yanship is perhaps something similar to that.
It's just generations down of a feral cat. It no longer even looks like a domestic cat. Like the physical features change. There's like the length of the arms. You saw that when you mentioned its arms. It's elongating. It's thickening. The pounce distance is increasing. Like all the hunting aspects are like accelerating again. It's so bizarre to see. And I think in like maybe 50 years time, we're going to be at the point where they wouldn't be able to reproduce if they tried. So it will be a subspecies, and then it's just going to keep going that way. And honestly, like everyone thinks here, oh, we can manage that. Us humans could just like, we can't take them out, man. It is really, really difficult to keep the feral cat populations in control. They're wildishly clever. And I know this from what I do for work to some extent as well. And what happens is crazy as well. So we give them like a bait that's poisonous for them, and you dose it. First, you put the bait out in an area, you'll kill maybe 70 to 80% of the cats there. The next time you try and do it, you're only taking about 10%. And they think, oh, wow, we've reduced their populations. We're not seeing the cats anymore. They've just learned to avoid it. And it's a real problem because they know the smell, they know the taste. And then they start to distrust cameras that you set up to monitor them. Because it used to be a camera and has like it shoots like a dart that's like poisonous for them. It's like an AI thing. It follows it, sees it, it shoots at it. They've learned to avoid all human installations in the area. To the point where we can't even monitor them anymore. They don't even go anywhere near. They memorize where the human installed thing was. They know it by the scent, and they just don't go near it anymore.
Yeah, right.
So there's not much we can do, and you're out like the middle of nowhere in like 10,000 hectares trying to like freaking, manage their population, and they're outsmarting us almost every single time.
That's wild. Do you think that domestic cats have that sort of intelligence?
100%. And that was the first thing I was going to talk about. And before I like detoured on this, I was going to give a really fun, cutesy little thing about like, they found psychologically cats mirror the personality of their owners. So if you're more of an extroverted person, your cat will be more extroverted. It'll be more friendly with strangers, with other cats. And if you're an introvert, it'll be more scared. And like en masse, they found this. So it's not like the cat itself. It's just mirroring your personality.
Yeah.
Which I thought was pretty crazy. And the other one was that cats domesticated us. There's no evidence that we ever intentionally bred them. They just came, were cute, we patted them, and they stuck around. They domesticated us. We started just feeding them. They're not even good mouse hunters. So the theory that they kept like mice from grains and silo, no, they were never the good mouse. Ferrets are better. There's certain type of dogs that are better mouse hunters. Cats just came around because they wanted some food and they wanted attention, and we gave it to them.
Well, I thought it was the Egyptians that really loved cats.
They revered them, yeah.
Yeah.
But they always thought that they revered them because they were benefiting. My theory was always that the cats killed rats and gerbils who brought disease. So cities that had heaps of cats had less disease. So they thought that the cats were blessed. That was my theory, but looks like genetically there's no real evidence for that. But there's no trace of them. They domesticated us more than we domesticated them.
Yeah, right.
Whereas dogs actually did something for us, so we kept them around.
Yeah.
Cats just rocked up and ate our food.
I was like, what's going on?
Yeah, what's going on?
What
You guys got a lot of food here.
Yeah. Do you mind if I hang out?
Yeah.
It's pretty funny.
It's crazy.
What do you think? Do you think Lilo mirrors my personality?
100%.
Do you think?
Yeah, she's a very friendly cat. She's not scared of anyone. She met Luke and some other guys for the first time, and she just came out to say hello and say hello. And you know, Toby matches mine that cat used to have. I set up a chair. We have a group of friends around. I set up a chair for him. He jumps up there and chills around the table as we all play board games and stuff.
It's pretty cool. Like cats are super cool. I hate when people say that they hate cats or like kill them all and stuff like that. I'm like, dude, you have no fucking idea how cool cats are, eh? It's weird that there's a like I wouldn't say 50% of people, but a lot of people hate cats. I just don't understand it.
It's very, very high. Yeah, but the thing that got me was just that idea that like, well, the best cats, the friendliest cats, the ones most adapted to be around humans are being bred the least.
I know, like I would have loved to have seen a second generation of Lilo. Like I'd have loved to have seen her have kittens and see what they do, but that's just...
Yeah, she raises them as well because she's already like, you know, friendly with you. You'll be able to see all of that happen, and we don't have that. 90% are sterilized.
Yeah, that's wild. And it's like, you can't change it either. Like, once they're sterilized, that's it.
That's it. It's done, yeah. They're desexed.
So...
But these feral cats are just, like, evolving like crazy. It's a really interesting thing to see. And I'll touch base on it again in maybe a few months' time and see if anything else has changed. But that 35-kilogram one is the biggest one I've found so far.
Yeah, that's huge, man. I've never seen a cat that big.
It's insanity.
The craziest part as well is that I quite actually enjoyed Greece because they have cats everywhere in Greece. And they're so friendly. And I've seen a quote that you can tell a lot about the people of a country depending on how they treat their cats. So, you know, the Greeks, well, their cities at least anyway, like it's probably not a country, but the people of the city, how they treat their cats. Everywhere I went, the cats were so friendly and they were so nice, and they'd come up to you and get
you
pats
pat them and stuff. Yeah, Italy was the same as well.
Yep.
On like Ash has a video of me in Europe. There's like a compilation of all the cats I pat.
Yeah.
Like 15 or 16 cats. I'm just like, new place, and they would just come up to you and let you pat them.
Say
it's
hello.
crazy.
Yeah, and I did the same thing. I was patting cats everywhere, bro.
Yeah.
I love them. I love cats. They're so friendly and they just hang out and you give them a pat and they just chill with you for a bit. It's super cool.
There's one I'm going to touch about next poddy episode on this one. I'm going to deep dive into it. There's actually a parasite that might be associated to this. It's this crazy ass thing. Do you know about this?
Yeah, I know this.
So basically the concept is there's a parasite that has co-evolved with cats and usually infects mice, and it makes mice less afraid of cats, which makes them easier to kill and eat. And apparently humans also have that, and that's might be why we love cats so much.
Yeah, right. Well, that actually isn't where I thought you were going. I thought you were going to be talking about the, I don't know if I think it might be a parasite or something. It comes from cats and it makes you way more risk taking, and it makes
that's the same one. Yeah,
is that the same thing? So that's why, because when I was in Greece, I was like, man, they're surrounded by cats there. And then the Greeks are also known to drive like fucking maniacs. And I was like, is this that happening right there? The cat shit. So yeah, I don't know.
All right, well, I've got maybe do one for you. Do you have one on here as well?
What else do we have in there? That one there, I can't really remember it because I put it in there so long ago. So I'm happy to just sort of go with whatever we've got.
Well, I've got one last one here that I was going to touch base with you on. This one here, I need to be careful. I was chatting to Luke about this on the way here. I need to be careful about this one. This is all scientific that I'm about to discuss here. This is like proven through data, right?
Okay.
But there's a really interesting study that was done. So the way the study worked is they got a group of women together. I think like 1,000 women, I think was the number of the study. And they basically told them that what they were going to be doing that day is trying to see if they can give advice on what hairstyle a woman should have based on her appearance. That's what they told them that the study was about.
Yeah.
And instead, the actual study was to see how women behaved in, they call it intersexual competition. So how do women compete for men? And what they found, which is absolutely insane, is that if the woman who was being asked the question perceived the woman who came in as equally attractive to her or more, her recommendation was almost always to get her hair cut short. Because they know that men don't like short hair. But if the woman was less attractive, it was never to get the hair cut short. And they found it en masse to a point where it wasn't just chance. It was like a statistically significant deviation. And what they found in the study is that, so Luke's got to put it up here, is that basically that's how women compete with each other in an intersexual way. So instead of being or having more of the things that men might want, they instead manipulate other women to have less of the things that they know men want. So the way men compete, and we probably all know this if you're a guy, you have this like inherent urge to try and like get wealthy, get a good job, get a nice car, get a house. All of these are symbols that you show that you can provide. So the way that we compete with other men is that we accumulate as much as we can, we protect what we have, and we show that we have those things. So it's all about building yourself up. But for women, the way that they compete is by knocking other women down. And the crazy one is that they found it's like on a psychological side of things, women will always encourage their friends, if they're equal attractiveness to them, to be more promiscuous. They'll always encourage them to be more disagreeable. There's all these things that they know that make them a less attractive partner to men. So they're like, they push them towards that. I don't think they're even aware that they do it. The same way that most guys, we're not aware of why we want the things that we want. We just know that we want them because it's inherent. It's evolutionary. Women have this evolutionary impulse to bring other women down. And I thought to myself, like, it's kind of crazy, but when you think about it, it makes sense. I don't know if you've ever been in a situation, I'll tell the guys in the chat, or to you as well here, where like, you know, if you're ever in an argument with your girl, you know if she goes and tells her female friends about the argument, she's going to get the most dog shit advice possible. Like the most, the advice is going to be like, it's all his fault, you're perfect, you don't change anything. But that's like the worst advice you can actually give someone because no one's ever perfect. Do you know what I mean? You can always work on yourself. I don't know if that's part of that as well. It's like you don't want your friend to improve themselves because then that makes them like outcompete you.
Well, actually, I just want to touch on that there. So the whole when you go to your friends and you get dog shit advice, well, I don't necessarily think that's got anything to do with it because I think you should only accept advice from people that perhaps you'd want to be in their position or are actually worthy of giving advice. If you just take advice from any old person, then you're just doing yourself a disservice. So I wouldn't say I agree on that point.
What I would say then, it's not about being a definite. I'm saying that there's scientifically a underlying impulse for women to give other women bad advice.
So I'm not even saying that I think that if you go to your friends, these are supposed to be your friends, that they're going to inherently try and sabotage you, right? Say they've got a boyfriend and she's got a boyfriend. There's no reason for her to sabotage you, right? But here's the thing, is that what's happened with this like female empowerment and like, yeah, you go get it, girl. That is where I think that comes from. Like, no, like if that's happening, like, no, you're right. You don't need to listen to him, girl. All that sort of shit. That actually comes from that as opposed to trying to sabotage.
Yeah. But the thing that the study found when it brought it out its search was that the female competition aspects weren't always tied directly. They weren't tied in obvious ways to any sort of mating opportunity. It was just an inherent underlying tone in how women behaved with each other. Is that they would push other women to be more promiscuous and have less of the qualities that men value. It was just inherent in how they operate with each other.
So it wasn't necessarily circumstantial.
Because they want the guy. It's just like, it's a constant about it. And then they might not even be aware that they're doing it. Because this is just proven in the data. We need to put the link to this one because I know it's incredibly contentious what I'm saying here. But this is just me reading from literally the dot points from the white paper study. This is a publication. It's got its method. It's got its limitations. You can read the paper yourself. I'm giving you their dot points, and I'm trying to contextualize it in things that I've observed or things that I think are happening.
Well, do you know what's so funny is that I already know about this study, and I've had that exact same thing happen to me from females. So they're like, oh, no, like, you need to get your hair trimmed. Like, it's not going to grow anymore. And like since that point, I've seen them. They're like, man, your hair's getting so long. It's like, yeah. Do you remember the last time you tried to tell me to cut it?
Wait,
it's like,
so they think that they're competing with you for other men.
Well, I don't know. I don't know, but I am kind of cute. No, no, but like, but like, no. So I've had girls say that to me, like, oh, you need to cut your hair. It's not going to grow, or blah, 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 that sort of shit. And I'm not saying that it actually works across genders, but when I have pushed back against it, I've seen them get frustrated. And I'm like, what are you getting frustrated for? Like, it's not, like, I don't want to cut my hair. So it is interesting.
So this is the bit right here. This is the statement that really blows my freaking mind. So if I just read this one out. So So female intrasexual competition tends not to involve physical aggression because female bodies are especially vulnerable to damage from violent conflict. And indirect aggression is especially well suited to thwarting other women's mate attraction efforts. This includes gossiping, derogation, and exclusion, as well as rival manipulation via dishonest or disingenuous advice. Now, this is scientifically proven in a controlled study base. You can read these papers if you want. They've found different ways to run these experiments, and this is what they keep observing. So I don't know if you're good friends with the girl, maybe that changes things. I'm sure we can look into studies about that.
Yeah.
You know, so in women, indirect aggression is associated with mating motivations. It tends to peak around adolescence and early adulthood. So there's one here. So female indirect aggression will target aspects of their rivals that men prize in prospective long-term partners. Things such as attractiveness and chastity. And we all know chastity is opposite of promiscuity. So the advice they give their friends is to be less of those two things. To be less attractive and more promiscuous. Has this not like just slot a puzzle piece into the things that you know you've been observing?
Well, here's the thing. I don't know the parameters of how good this study was, blah, blah, blah. But it's interesting that the way that women will hurt other women is to call them a slut. It's really interesting. It's like, it does sort of, you can sort of tie it all together. So it is interesting, but I don't know. You'd have to look through the data and actually.
And I've got here, like, I'm not going to go into it here, but like, I actually went through the methodology and I thought it was quite sound. I went through all the papers and they're all still published. None have been retracted. They're all in reputable psychological journals. So this isn't like a secret. This is known about in human psychology. This is just like, it makes sense when you look at it. They can't physically fight or compete. So they psychologically
hurt people with words.
Yeah. And men it's the opposite. But I thought that was just a crazy thing to notice there, that like we do have an epidemic of promiscuity. It's in both genders, don't get me wrong, but like the amount of body count, people have all those sort of things is like, it's more and more. And another one I thought about to myself as well, I'm like, well, so what this is saying is that less attractive women will sabotage more attractive women psychologically to make them less attractive to men. Wasn't feminism kind of that too? Wasn't that whole movement sort of built into that as well? Like the convince your friends to hate men so that they're less likely to compete with you for those men.
Well, hang on a second. I think you're misconstruing two things here. I think feminism wasn't that, and I think it got hijacked. So I think feminism had nothing to do with that. They just wanted to be empowered themselves. It had nothing to do with like trying to tear men down and tell women to go and have sex with other people. I don't think.
Well, sexual liberation is that. Sexual liberation is have as many partners as you want. That second wave feminism was all about sexual liberation. That was actually pushed. So one group
you said
of women,
second wave.
So first wave feminism was about the right to vote and all the rest of those things.
Yeah. So
there was an element
that's
of that
initial feminism.
But then second wave and third wave, which has been what we've lived through in our lifetime, the last maybe 40 years of feminism, I'd say, have been about, sexual liberation was the main goal on that. And when I look at that, I go to myself, well, so you tell me women who were in power manipulated other women to behave in a certain way that made them less attractive as long-term partners. It seems to match that a little bit. I don't know if it's like all tied together, but like for me, it's not like those two things aren't parallel. Like there's some probably perpendicular cross somewhere. I
see what you're saying, and I guess that if someone that was a feminist was subconsciously doing that and actually got that message out there, then it would spread really quickly. But that's not just to say you can do that with any message. We've seen that in COVID.
Yeah.
But yeah, it actually increases that, and then more and more girls do that, and then it just. But to what point does it just become? Well, that's just how it's always been. So
that's probably where we're at now. It's gone so far that it's like, well, everyone's like that. So who's out competing who here if we're all like this?
Yeah.
That's really the problem. Like everyone's become that way. But I just think it's fascinating that there's like these. When we talk about psychological impulses here, we're talking about things that built up over millions of years of evolution, hundreds of thousands of years of evolution at least. So this idea that it's like, well, that's no longer the case. No, that's still the case.
It's always the case.
We're in like 400 years of probably like, society that we're in right now. These things are all still there. We all still behave these ways. We just don't notice it.
100%. I agree. It's like the male thing. I think we kind of understand why males do what they do. You obviously want money, power, fame, status because obviously it attracts more mates. Yeah. But there's also those aspects of like when you go into a room and people start sizing each other up.
Yeah.
That's the subconscious part of it.
Yeah.
Even if you're friends with someone, like there must be this subconscious sizing up
Yeah.
happening.
Well, that's why we have sport. Sport is a great way to like test yourself against other guys in like a controlled environment that doesn't have like a real risk of violence behind it, because you lose or win in the game and everyone has to walk away and take the hit to the ego from that point forward. Like you can't escalate it to something that's actually dangerous. We're not some places they do still, like, you know, there's ultras in Europe, the football fans who go beat each other to death after the game. But I thought this was just a really fascinating one, and all I want to say to any women who hear this, don't trust your friends when they tell you to cut your hair. Don't do it.
You
Not
see
good advice.
You
Just
see
that one.
so many girls that are like, "Oh, do you like it?" And it's like, "No," and they just immediately regret it and get like extensions.
Yeah.
It's like,
Just don't cut it
you
short.
got to wonder how they got to that conclusion that cutting their hair would be the good option.
Yeah.
Like, when is that ever? You spent so long growing it. You
Men
love
like it so much as well.
Yeah.
All men like it. I've never seen a guy say he prefers
I
short
like
hair.
short hair girls.
Never seen
I've
it.
never once said that
Yeah.
in my life. There's probably sometimes there that I actually do enjoy a girl with short hair, or I think they're pretty.
I still think they look prettier with long hair.
Well, it depends, because if you see a girl you see her just on the fly and she's always had short hair, you've never seen her with long hair. You probably could imagine what she looks like with long hair. But then there is some girls where you're like, you know what? I actually do like, you could see him both ways, and you go, I actually think I prefer it short.
Yeah.
But it's not the
might be a
majority.
preference thing,
It's
yeah.
the minority.
Yeah, and the fact that girls keep cutting their hair short tells you that there's some other influence going on telling them to do that, because if they regret it as well, it's clearly not for them. So I just feel like that's happening. I'm not a woman myself, as you guys say. But you know what I mean? We don't know. We don't know what's actually going on there. I don't know. I'm looking at this from an outsider, and I want to appreciate that I'm an outsider to this. But this study for me was just very eye-opening to see what that looks like. And also why like women don't do well. You know, there's a thing about like women hate having female bosses in general. I think there's probably a bit of that going on. The way they compete with each other just doesn't suit itself well for like.
Is that true? Though?
That's actually that's actually a thing
statistically.
as well. Yeah, statistically.
How do you know that? Who the fuck are these people that are taking these fucking statistical tests?
People just
This is what I'm saying.
love
Like,
running stats,
like also,
bro.
like they're like, this
Well,
is what?
Where's Mixer on the thing?
No,
It's all good?
It's there, yeah. It's
All
there.
right, brilliant.
Yeah.
I don't
No,
know
the-
who runs
the-
them.
the-
McKinsey probably. McKinsey runs heaps of freaking studies like that. McKinsey Institute. They're like a freaking. Can you look it up, Luke? See, like, do women prefer working under female bosses?
I'm
might
not,
be
I'm
wrong
not
about
saying that it might not be statistical data that they've proven, but I'm like, who the fuck takes this? Like, who is going to like, bro? I've never gone to one of these data things. Like, no one's ever stopped me and been like, oh yeah, like, could you do this statistical data thing for us about whether you like a boss that's a male or a female? Who the fuck are doing these?
I sometimes think of that as well when we're picking like a restaurant to eat. You look at the rating for it. I'm like, well, who the fuck reviews these things? I've never once sat down and put a review in. Is it just a certain type of special person who actually goes out and does the studies, does the reviewing, does all this?
Well, no. Like, I've done it. We did it in Japan. Like, the people that asked us, we did it.
Alright. So apparently 28% of female respondents said they preferred a female boss.
Okay. Compared to 20%
Yeah.
male. Yeah, but like, what's the how many people?
What's the one? Go show more. It says nuance. It would be a hard one. It all depends on how you frame the question, I feel, because most women think that they want a female boss. But what I want to know is the ones who have one and have a comparative male boss to compare it to, what do they prefer? Like, it's very easy when you have a male boss to go, things would be so much better if I had a female boss. But that's not what I'm asking. I want to know, if you have the female boss, what's it like for you? And that's probably a hard question to ask, I reckon.
Do you think that there could be some aspect of it that with a male boss, if you're like a pretty girl, you can sort of use your feminine charm, whereas with a female, it doesn't necessarily translate that well. And then as a female boss, you have to take on more masculine traits, and you maybe over apply the masculinity to that role because you don't want to be perceived as weak.
It could be, but I think also we can't shake the thing that I just showed, that the studies where there's like an element of psychological and physical sabotage, which is in just how they interact and compete for status. So I think if you have a female boss, like, I think there has to be a play to some extent in the way they behave with men compared to women. Like, they compete with women in this subtle psychological way. That can't be great to have that in the workplace. Like, it can't be great to not know where you stand with your boss because they're really friendly to your face, but then behind your back, they're like not.
Yeah, but I've seen many. I know many women in the workplace, and yeah, there is like I think there's probably it sounds like there's always more drama going on with the females than there's the males, but there is like a lot of dick swinging contests in the corporate world as well.
Egos,
so it's not to say that that doesn't still happen, but I know a lot of girls that have female bosses and they seem great and they're all like willing to look out for each other. So that's why I'm like, that's anecdotal evidence though. And these people have gone and done a study. So I don't know.
Yeah. But I said, yeah, that you touched on a great thing there as well. There's anecdotal evidence and then there's a study. And what the study only ever tells you is that there's an inclination towards this being a trend. Like, I wish science was better than that, but that's all science will ever tell you. When I say statistically significant, all I mean is that if I rerun this test 100 times, 95% of the time, I'll get this result. That doesn't mean 5% isn't a number. 5% is still a pretty fucking big number statistically, right? That's still out of every 1,000 times that's happening. Do you know what I mean? It's not like insignificant to some extent as well. And you're right, there's also anecdotal. If I look back on that as well, to be statistically significant, it doesn't mean that 95% of the women that they asked did this thing. It just means that even if it's like 50, I think the number is about 55% of your data points a certain way. If it does it consistently enough, you run it through your stats, you can still get statistical significance. As long as your standard deviation bar is lower. It's just the way it works in statistics, right? It's about what's your average, what's your standard deviation. What was your average, what's your standard deviation. If they overlap, you don't have statistical significance because it could just be random chance. But if your standard error bar is far enough away from the other one, you have statistical significance. Crash course in statistics right there for you. That's all that means when you see those sort of words.
I see.
But it doesn't mean that this number's always this number and this number's always this number. The range is still there. So you're right. It's not proving anything, but I think it tells me that there's a trend there that makes sense. It's evolutionary. And I think it plays out in these really nuanced ways that we might not be aware of.
Yeah, but let's say it is statistically significant and there is a trend there. If girls are good enough to do that to their friends, then when you ask them the question, they're also probably going to lie, even if it's subconscious anyways.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, they're not going to tell you the truth.
They're an unreliable data point.
Yeah. Oh, dude.
I think we can probably end that one there. Probably pissed off enough women here.
Yeah, honestly.
Yeah.
But yeah, thanks everybody. This was a fun potty.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, I don't have anything to say, man.
Yeah. I think next episode we'll touch on the UFO story that you have there.
I do. I can't even remember if we did. I was like, have we touched on this or not?
That's the freaking essence of the potty. That's what it used to be. We used to talk about stuff like that as well. I need to bring in some wild left field things as well.
We could also. I did have a pretty cool video, but it ended up. Well, I don't know if it was actually disproven, but someone on Reddit said it was just a drone. But
fucking Reddit, man.
And that was in Perth. I think I sent you the video of like the green circular disc.
Yeah, I saw that.
They said it was like ghosting from a camera, and that's what the light trail behind it was. I was like, okay, that seems to make sense, but I don't know. Like, I don't believe anything on the internet. The dead internet theory is fucking real. It's all bots responding to you and shit. It's crazy.
It's so unfortunate that we're in a day and age right now. Like, the technology's come so far that there's almost no UFO sighting, camera, photograph, anything I could actually believe, because all of it can be replicated. You can ask AI right now, the SOAR on AI, you can ask it generate me a believable UFO sighting. Yeah. And it's going to be so good. It's going to be so good that you can be like, holy shit, if I saw this 30 years ago, that's it, I'm done, I'm a believer.
Well, do you remember that whole like arc there where we had all these weird sightings in America of like all these things in the air, and then just died? Yeah. Nothing. Whatever happened to that? They were going to say what it was. Well,
apparently it was the government. Trump did come out and say it was the US government.
Right.
Maybe sort of just quietly they brushed that away. I don't know what they were trying to do with that, why they were trying to scare people right before an election, but you make your own inference from that if you will. I think they were trying to scare people.
Or it could have been that he was going to utilize that, like, I will go in there and tell people what it is, and that was enough to like stir people up, perhaps. Who
possibly
knows?
But that's why some of my favorite UFO stories come from like a time where we had hard data that was collected before any satellites were in the air at all. And I told you about that one that has like they were trying to photograph how many supernovas happen. So they were like 2 kilometers apart. They took all these time-lapse photos of the sky, and they thought that they saw 3 supernovas in the same spot. And it was a massive scientific community investigation thing that happened for like 2 decades until someone just went, what if those aren't supernovas? And they found a flash in that still image, and they found like 3-4 kilometers away in the same like time lapse a flash as well, and they could work out if it was something moving, what speed it would be. And they found local news reports in like a town that was in between those two locations who did see flying orbs at the time. And it's like the 1940s, before we even had satellites in there. There's a mass UFO sighting here. A complete separate study done by NASA found like 3 orbs in a photograph here and 3 orbs in a photograph here. That's one of my favorite ones because it's like it's so verified that those orbs were there because scientists studied supernovas about it for like 20 years. There was a news article you can still find from that town on the same time, and you can find these images on the internet still.
That's super interesting.
So I might touch on that one next time because I think that's a really good one because there's no faking it on that front.
We just need to make sure that we go back through all of our old stuff and make sure we're not retouching on the same things. I can't even remember.
But I think it's been long enough that we can.
Yeah.
Yeah, easy. All right, well, thanks for joining us, guys. I think we'll...
Yeah. Shout outs to everyone that tuned in, man.
Yeah, cheers, boys.
Yeah, thank you, Troll, Ash, Liam. Who else did we have in there? Had Data Link. I can't remember who else. I think that was everyone, was it?
Yeah, he's had that.
Yeah.
Easy. Yeah, cheers, boys.
Thanks, guys. But yeah, no, I appreciate that. And don't forget, we're just animals with shoes on, and we'll see you next